This episode of Random Anime Thoughts is to basically serve as a tribute to a legend that we recently lost. Usually I like to make a lot of jokes in certain videos, but this is gonna be a bit more of a somber video because we lost a legend. And I felt that it was super important that in this time, instead of just being down, we need to try and be positive about the situation and that we should celebrate him and everything that he has done for the industry of anime and the world. Because Dragon Ball Z and some of that man's creations touched almost everybody, whether you're an anime fan or not. But at the same time, having this conversation was a bit difficult for me because I felt like I don't want to seem as if I'm capitalizing on the situation and this bad time. But also, I felt as though it would be wrong of me to not vocalize and honestly pay tribute to a man who changed not only my life, but a lot of people's lives.
Work hard, study well, and eat and sleep plenty. That's the turtle hermit way to learn.
It's a pretty interesting thing when you talk about Dragon Ball Z because depending on who you talk to, it's either Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z GT, Dragon Ball. It's got a lot of names, but it's basically the anime that has Goku and Vegeta, arguably the most iconic characters ever, not just in anime, but just ever. And to kind of think about that anime brings a bit of a sad tone to it because I have to be realistic. I remember watching this podcast of RDC World where they were discussing Attack on Titan, and in a certain discussion, they were basically debating if Dragon Ball Z might have to be outed as one of the greats of all time for their list, of course, and replaced with Attack on Titan. And as I was listening to them talk about it, I kind of felt some type of way because even though I understood what was being said, it just felt like there was something wrong about judging a legend like that. But the truth is, throughout the years, it's become the norm. Because the one thing that I've realized about Dragon Ball Z is that most people have either started with it or have experienced it at one point, but after a certain point, it kind of becomes weird to like Dragon Ball Z. The best example that I could give you to kind of explain this weird process is basically during your teens, there's a point where you don't want to do the things that you used to do. So basically, it's not cool anymore to act like you love your parents or you actually tell them that you love them because it's not what the cool kids do. It's kind of whatever. Dragon Ball Z went through that, where a lot of people had started with Dragon Ball Z, but after you get to a point, especially when you become an anime fan, you kind of want to shun Dragon Ball Z, and that's what happens because it's deemed as an anime that is basic. So if you have Dragon Ball Z in your top 5 list, you're shunned. A lot of individuals who have come out and said that Dragon Ball Z is within their top 5 are just thought as casuals, like, oh, you don't watch enough anime, that's why you have Dragon Ball Z or Naruto or One Piece in there, whatever. And unfortunately, DBZ went through that whole situation. And honestly speaking, it happened to me. Because after a certain point, I didn't want to really associate myself with Dragon Ball Z because I thought that it was too basic. It was just this anime where people would fight and there was no real point. It was just people fighting. It was a kid's show, like something that a child would watch. I liked it when I was younger, but as I grew older, I wanted something more captivating or darker. But looking back, it was the wrong decision. If you really look at Dragon Ball Z was a super special anime. And actually a lot of anime was inspired by Dragon Ball Z. But for some reason, people just want to shun being a Dragon Ball fan. Despite how they're super loyal, they're just deemed as these casuals. And it's kind of unfortunate that an anime that was so inspirational and that changed so many things was put in that type of place. We wanted to celebrate the newer things, the things that replaced it. Sometimes, in fact, we would discredit this anime and what this man had created. And as I'm saying this and telling you this, I feel that way. Because when this individual was around, did I really celebrate Dragon Ball Z as much as I should have? This was the first anime I ever watched. And I didn't even know it was an anime. I was just a kid watching a cartoon, but little did I know it was an anime. So it's kind of unfortunate that this anime that has been so iconic, that has been memed to another level. Honestly, honestly, I think that Dragon Ball Z might have the most memes besides like SpongeBob or something like that. Yet, it's just seen as this casual show. And it's kind of disappointing to realize that this anime was amazing. There's a lot of things that could be taken out of this anime that you could dissect, and I'm not the best to do that. I'm sure you can find a Dragon Ball Z channel that would do a better job than I could. But all I know is that this anime was fun, and that feeling of fun never leaves you. All of the amazing fun things that would happen in an episode of Dragon Ball Z made my day and made a lot of people's day. Just thinking about it now is kind of disappointing, because we're at this point where sometimes we want to criticize things for being the most intellectual type of things. We want things that are grown up. We don't want things that are just senseless fighting or whatever. But Dragon Ball Z was one of the first to really have fun. It was able to translate to any age, whether you were young or old. It was able to connect to you. And that alone is impressive. This individual wanted to spread this idea with everybody, and wherever you came from, it connected. This man's vision came true. He wanted to spread something that would bring joy and happiness to everyone. He was just a big kid. This type of moment should be thought about, because there's a lot of people out there who love certain shows but barely know who the creator is. And I think situations like this should spur on people to really be invested on the creators who bring them all of that awesome anime and creations that we enjoy so much, that make us feel something. Even though this is a pretty sad moment in history, it's kind of a moment for us to realize that we should really give the people around us their flowers while they're still around. Because just as how some of their anime has changed your life, you've changed theirs. You've supported them, you've worn their stuff, you've done cosplays, you've talked about it. And I'm sure whether you realize it or not, what you do actually affects them. Some creators kind of talk negatively about what the stress and the pressure of creating certain things, whether it be manga or anime, can have on them. But also they have these moments where they say, I can't stop because I see someone who loves my work and it just gives me that inspiration. So it's cool to criticize something, but we should stop taking away the greatness from something because we want it to be something it's not. So what if Dragon Ball Z wasn't the most intellectual anime ever? Its whole purpose was to be this fun anime, and it did its job. And it's unfortunate that it's always when someone has to die that we realize this. And I hope that wherever you are, you celebrate this great individual, because I'm sure that he wouldn't want people to just be sad on this day. He'd want us to celebrate him and be happy, because that's what he decided to do when he created that great anime and a lot of the things that he did. He wanted to make you smile. Wherever he is, I want it to be known he is a legend, and he is one of the great mangakas that have ever existed. So I hope that in the future, in history books, he's discussed with some of the greats that we see, because he's one of them. He came up with an idea that changed the world, and that should be celebrated.
But take care, okay? Live your lives to the fullest, and I'll see you again when you're done. Goodbye!